So, speaking of feminists, to move things on a little, speaking of feminism...
Yeah, we probably should.
Why are feminists finding it hard to date, guys?
Could it be that they are unlikable?
Because they're feminists.
Is it because they hate men?
Spoon!
He has risen from silence.
Oh, here's my favourite one.
The concept of...
Here's my favourite one.
The concept of masculinity.
Yes. Here's my favourite one, though. And the best part is, it's not spelt right. Guys are started to think we don't need them anymore. I'm sorry, who the hell was it who said that they were an independent fish who don't need no bicycle? Wasn't the bloody man.
Eat it. Fucking eat it.
You see, when you say that, I'm just, like, picturing Biden talking about a fish riding a bicycle in one of his speeches.
See, he probably
I could
would.
easily picture that happening. Well, you know, if you want to fix the economy, you gotta get the fish to ride the bicycle.
The cold, dead black eyes of Biden.
Like, the lack of self-awareness is astounding. The thing is, I'm starting to get a bit of a standoffish vibe from guys. That, like, they're afraid to make a move, and I think it's because they think that we don't need them anymore. Yes, the reason they think that is because you literally said that.
Well, I think it's because there is, the strength of the feminist argument, I think, is that there is an element of truth to it, that it is true that social norms and social expectations are restrictive and repressive to a certain degree. However, it's also important to remember that a large part of where gender roles emerge is, yes, from the expectations of the opposite sex. Masculinity is shaped in much the same way. It's not just that women are pressured to be what men desire them to be, but men are also pressured to be what women desire them to be. And it is also the case that these gender roles are also formed through the expectations of you know, one's own sex and, like, camaraderie, brotherhood, sisterhood, whatever. Like, the intersex expectations of one's peers also help form that. So there is an element to these groups that exists to facilitate social interaction, and I think dating is an obvious example of that. You know, gender roles make dating work because both the men and the women know the rules by which they're playing. If you're a guy, you
know the rules, and so
do I. And if you're a girl, you do this, this, and this. And so it's very easy to negotiate because both people understand the set of expectations that are placed on them. And I know this is a problem that I've run into in dating, where it's like, am I going to get in trouble if I'm too forward? Am I going to be accused of being aggressive or rapey? And if I'm not forward enough, am I, like, then being a pussy? And so I've run into that problem in my own life.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
Spoon, would you like
which
to...
I think is... Sorry. What were you saying second?
I was just going to ask if Spoon wanted to comment about his mating strategies.
My mating strategies?
He just talks.
Yeah, usually talking and being very outspoken in a masculine way. I think, as far as feminism goes, I think of feminism as a...
mental disorder?
No. It's, I'm trying to think of an analogy. It's like a biological infection mixed with a drug habit. In a sense that it is an ideology. It's an ideology that corrupts the state of the world around you and sees you. It allows you to see the world for not as it really is, and your biology is telling you this is not right. And you can see it because feminists constantly find themselves, oh my god, why am I attracted to a 6'2", 100 masculine pound dude who can kick my ass and save me from a fucking bear? Because that's kind of his role. That's literally what he is built for, according to, you know, hunter-gatherers, and that kind of got you here. So if you strip him of that role, he has no function. And your biology is telling you, I kind of would like a man like that around, because... Why is my vagina tickling right now as I'm saying this? Oh yes, because you're attracted to that guy, you imbecile.
Yep.
And whatever kicking and screaming you can do, biology is going to win. Which is why you had that feminist a while ago on the show saying, I can't help sleeping with Trump supporters. I wonder why.
That's right.
I don't need to wonder why. I know exactly why. But,
They want the 666. They want the 666.
I will say here is
six-pack, six figures. That's what they want.
I've never heard that one before. That's very good.
No, that's definitely not something I've heard, but I like it.
I would say
it's accurate.
Well, I'm 5'7",
go on,
so I'm
Spoon.
fucked on one of them.
something I want you to say to all guys is women have a social issue of not saying what they're actually wanting out loud in the face of other women, especially since feminism has spread so rapidly, because they fear the reprisal of other females and the judgment of other females because they're social creatures. However, they will very, very much like what you say in private. They won't express it publicly because they don't need the headache. But if you say to a bunch of women, like, no, this is what I believe men should do, this is what I believe that women should do, and women need to get the fuck out of these places, many will say, oh my god, you horrible person, you. There's not 2 or 3 will openly express their disgust to your face. But there's 5 or 6 that you don't see behind those massive feminists, because they're blocking the view, who are looking at you going, oh my god, a real man, please fuck me now. I guarantee you. I've said these things, and I've had a whole bunch of women say to me, I would never express this publicly, but I very much agree with you. And I say to them, why don't you say this publicly? They say, oh my god, do you not think we know what crap you'd get? If you know it, we sure the hell don't, so we're not going to say it. Simple as that.
Yeah, the silent majority is real, is what you're saying.
Yes.
Yeah.
So don't be afraid to express your opinion.
Sorry, Spain. I was just going to say, part of it is due to the fact that you have twice as many female ancestors as you have male ancestors, which is just, that's statistical biology, I'm sorry. So you have twice as many female ancestors. Yeah, you've got twice as many female ancestors, male ancestors. Women, females, rather than saying women, I'm going to say females, are the ones who have selected through sexual reproduction the characteristics of both sexes. We are a result, the biological differences between men and women is a result of the sexual selection of women.
Yeah, and that is also something interesting to note about traditional gender roles, with like the man being the head of the household. There was a very interesting, like in C.S. Lewis's essay on chivalry, he talks about how the danger of a classless society is that chivalry was a virtue that was, say, embodied in a specialized class and then transmitted through coercion or imitation to other classes, but that the classless society is the question of, is this new classless group of people the best of all traits from the classes that preceded them, or the sediment of all of them? And I think that is a question worth asking with something like gender roles. Like, men were traditionally the head of the household. There was this obedience of the wife that was expected, and as a consequence, the man was expected to adopt all of the responsibility. The man was expected to put his wife's needs before his own. In classical Christianity, it was that the man was supposed to be to his wife what Jesus was to the church, and Jesus died on a cross. So in traditional marriage, the man is expected to wear a crown, but it is first and foremost a crown of thorns.
Indeed.
And so that's kind of the thing where the man takes that responsibility of being virtuous, of having to earn the woman's approval, because women have much higher standards than men do, so men had to be shaped to fit those standards into somebody chivalrous and virtuous, and then the wife would, kind of obey the husband in the marriage. The man would be the head of the household, and also because a woman is appropriately much more protective of her children, so the man would be more fair to the outside world. And kind of one of the consequences of dismantling that is, if you're going to dismantle that completely, then people need to take onto themselves the individual responsibility of adjusting to that. So if men don't have what feminists would call a privileged position in such a relationship, then do women need to lower their standards to the level that men's standards are at, or do men need to raise their own standards to the level of standards that women's standards are at? Because there is a very clear difference in the scrutiny that both sexes hold each other to as potential partners. And if we're supposed to equalize everything, is that something that men or women are going to have to take the responsibility of equalizing as well? Or is some presence of the gender role still required?
Well, one of the big issues that arises there is that one of women's biggest criteria hasn't actually changed at all. In general, women want a man that's more successful than they are. The problem is that now women are just as successful as men, which means that they still want a man that's more successful than they are, but that leaves them with like 10 dudes per country.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's the problem with the widening of the pool of potential suitors, and this means that women overestimate what they bring to a relationship, while underestimating what a potential man will bring into the relationship. Part of it, going back to you, what you were saying as well, second, with regards to the way that feminists have altered the discussion around the value of men and women, is what's happened is that they've both devalued men and women as a result of attempting to normalize men and women as being equal, as opposed to being, not equal, that's the wrong term.
Interchangeable.
Equivalent. Yeah, equivalent. That's an interchangeable or equivalent. So they've tried to make men and women equivalent or interchangeable, as opposed to being equal. So equal means that men and women are have the same value, inherent value, whereas equivalent means that they're interchangeable, as you were saying, second, which is not the case. I thought when you were talking, I was sort of thinking about how men are... The role that men have traditionally had is the protectors of the home, and the role that women have traditionally had is protector of the hearth, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. Like, women are generally have been responsible for for children, the domestic setting, the social dynamic that the household exists in, within itself, and then its interactions with others. And then the traditional role that men have had has been that of the protector and provider, the source of security and comfort.
Yeah, there's a YouTuber called Lindy Beige, who I hope you've all heard of, and he actually sums it up in quite a succinct way, in that women's power and responsibility has been focused inwards, while men's power and responsibility has been focused outwards. So women look after and control the home, like God help you trying to get into the pantry past the wife. While men's power and responsibility has been focused outside, interacting with others, dealing with threats.
That's exactly what I was going to say, and it was because of a research, basically, how I've seen the families when I grew up. My father took care of everything outside the house. My mother took care of everything inside the house.
Yeah,
and I gave
that's the same as my family.
Dynamic. Yeah, a really stable dynamic, and I gotta admit, I had a nice life growing up. Really thankful.
Yeah, I'm the same, and I've sort of looked at things nowadays, like with my parents' generation, because they're boomers. They were still in the situation where there wasn't an expectation that my mother was going to be everything. If she was going to work, she was going to work because she chose to work, and which is exactly what happened. My dad worked because that was his role in the family, and my mum chose to be in the household and managing the social side of our family life. And then when myself and my sisters were older, she chose to enter into the workforce for herself. That was something that she was doing because she wanted things to fill her time that was now free because she was not looking after children, if that makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. That is kind of the real kind of thing there, where it's like feminists do have some point in criticizing like kind of certain gender roles in a certain way, where it's like there's kind of like men aren't allowed to be vulnerable or show emotion. I mean, in my own life, I generally avoid breaking down and stuff, but I do have a healthy outlet where I'll talk about my emotions with like friends or other people in the appropriate setting. But kind of the thing is, if you abolish gender roles, then it is kind of the thing where it's like the individual has to be everything at that point. And to the extent that they can be everything, it's like fair enough, But is what we're seeing strong, stoic, emotionally self-controlled men who are also capable of being sensitive and talking about their emotions in a healthy way, and sexual self-control, and women who are also chaste, family-oriented, and generally have a go-get-it, successful kind of attitude, which is what I think older feminism might have idealized to a certain extent. Are those two, I guess, uber models of men and women where they adopt the best characteristics of both, the actual outcome of that? Or do we have a bunch of women going on like slut walks and sleeping with, whoever gets them moist, and a bunch of men sitting in their parents' basements covered in Cheeto dust? Like, again, are we getting is the individual getting the virtues of both or the sediment of both? Are men getting the virtues of both, or are they being kind of self-indulgent sexually and not adopting responsibility or being strong? And are women getting the virtues of both, or are they, sacrificing their sexual kind of self-control and general modesty? And, I generally it's much more the latter than the former.
I know it's
I think so.
whole big concept thing, but Carl really has a point for that. There's a lot of meaning in it.
Yeah, I sort of look at it as well from the point of view where you can't combine the virtues of men and women into a single one of the sexes. That's not going to work, because part of the reason why they are virtues is they are difficult to embody. You can't expect one person to embody all virtues. The only person, well, second and I would agree with this, that the only truly virtuous human that has existed would have been Christ. Whereas where he expressed all aspects of human virtues. That's why he's like an ideal. He's someone to look to and go, this is someone we would like to embody, and we know we will fall short, which is fine. Whereas what second wave feminism did, rather than first wave feminism, second wave feminism definitely, and third wave feminism is just off the rockers, but second wave feminists were trying to say that a woman can do everything that a man can do, as well as do everything that a woman can do. Now, that's not healthy. And I know a lot of women who are between like my wife's age and sort of my eldest sister's age, sort of the Generation X sort of period, all of us Gen Xers. And I know a lot of divorced women, and they're divorced as a result of the fact that they had to be everything, and their husbands weren't able to meet their needs because their needs couldn't be satisfied, or they didn't believe their needs could be satisfied through a marriage partnership, for example, or a relationship partnership if you don't agree with marriage. But I think, I can understand. Anyway, but they were looking for something which they couldn't get. They wanted to be everything, and they wanted someone else who could also be everything. And that was never going to happen. You have to divide up the role.
Yeah, and and that is the thing. I think there are exceptions where, they're not going to be up to the standard of Jesus, but I do think there are general exceptions of people who can...
There's always exceptions. There's always exceptions. But you can't point to the exceptions and go, exactly, you're the rule. You're the rule. No, you're the exception. The vast majority of people are not going to be able to live up to the exception. So we've got to look at the exceptions and go, you are the outliers. We need to ignore you. What about everyone else?
Right, exactly. Because, that is what C.S. Lewis was talking about in his essay on chivalry, that chivalry was the bringing together of fierceness to the nth degree and meekness to the nth degree into a single person, which are two like qualities that have no natural tendency to gravitate towards each other. In fact, they're very difficult, borderline impossible to actually hold together at the same time. Which is why in the medieval ages it was like done by like say a specialized class of knights, people who could break bone in battle and be a gentle, almost maiden-like guest in a dining hall. That this wasn't something easy to achieve, and that it isn't something that it is ideal, but it's obviously not something you're going to expect the average person or the general population to all take to heart and entirely live up to.
Self-control, self-restraint. Those are virtues.
Yes, what is ideal is a man who is capable of immense violence, but chooses not to use it. Unless, of course, necessary.
Or meeting a communist.
I said when it's necessary.
Again, you repeat yourself. Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, no need for repetition. Obviously, that's a joke. We're not like Antifa. Don't randomly attack people in the streets for their political views.
Yes, but do thoroughly mock them online.
Yes. I didn't mean that what second was bullshit. The, Whoa.
Oh,
Wog?
you're right there, Jezza?
Yeah, sorry, my connection just went weird.
Glories of Australian internet. Just another way that Australia is a third world country.
Oh, let's not talk about it. I don't want to think about it. I'm so angry about it still after all these years.
I thought it was all the spiders and snakes.
No, it's the
No.
fact that we could have had fibre optic connections to every single house in Australia, and instead we chose to go with the more expensive and shittier option. But anyway.
Nice.
Yeah.
It is kind of interesting because my mom is my mom was actually the breadwinner in my household, and they have a very good marriage. At the same time, my dad also has like a very bold personality and would do like all the kind of construction work on the house, like say fixing the roofing, let's say, or other kinds of physical manual labor that would obviously be attractive to the opposite sex.
Yep. Would you say that they still had defined gender roles within the relationship? See, that's what it is. That's what you need.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Same in
you'll
my
also
family,
notice
sorry.
You'll also notice that even though Second's mother was the breadwinner, take a look at her choice of career, a people and caring focused role.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
My mom's a nurse, folks.
What a hero!
My mom's a nurse.
Back to you, Trim.
That's...
Yeah, I was actually about... in my family, both mother and father were the breadwinners, but they had you could say, the classical gender roles still.
Yeah. Yeah. I was sort of looking and you go, it's not necessary that one person needs to work and one person doesn't need to work, but you need to be able to, like, the relationship still needs to be balanced.
Yeah.
That's what it comes down to.
While the trad lifestyle is good, it is not necessary.
And it's also like this stuff doesn't need to be. I just want to stress, like, this stuff doesn't need to be absolutely strict, right? But to the extent that there is a deviation to the extent that there is a deviation from it, there has to be an awareness of a general rule, and where things deviate, there has to be some responsibility and understanding taken of that deviation, let's say, for I guess things to work out. Like, for example, if the woman is kind of taking a role of headship in the family and interacting with the outside world, then she also needs to be aware of her own instincts to put her children first as fiercely as she does, and not be as much of a Karen if she's taking that position of headship. And, if she's willing to not be that much of a Karen and treat the outside world, I guess, more fairly as a man's natural instincts, let's say, would be more suited to, then, that's entirely fair. But, you know...
Are you trying to suggest there, second, that maybe the roles in a relationship should be an act of negotiation between the two equal parties who are involved in the relationship?
Holy shit, are
What
you
a crazy idea.
Sexist
Misogynist.
monster! How dare you! Free! Okay, can I do that? Oh, fuck my throat. I still have, my throat is still fucked from that fucking video.
Thank you for your kind words about my mom, Capstasher. Also, my mom she overcame breast cancer and has been cancer-free for 15. As of this summer, she will have been cancer-free for 15 years. So,
I'm really happy for you, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a very dark summer for me when I was like 7. Or was I 8? I was like 7 or 8 or something like that. That was a very depressing summer. Yeah. Actually, it might have actually been better at that age as opposed to being older, because that is something that I noticed, is that I went to a funeral for when my grandfather died when I was like 12. It didn't hit me as hard as when my grandmother died when I was like 21. I think largely because, like, you know, when you're a kid, yeah, you're not as emotionally self-controlled or stable, but you also don't fully have kind of the understanding to grasp everything that's going on. So in a certain sense, when you're more mature, it actually like hits you harder. So I actually think had my mom been going through breast cancer now, I would be a lot more fucked by it than I was when I was 7 or 8.
Yeah.
Well, you're more egocentric as a child.
Yeah, bet you are. That we all are, actually.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm again really happy for you.
I was very worried about her. No, I was very worried about her. I don't think it was the egocentric thing. I think it was just more so not being able to fully grasp and conceptualize the full implications.
Yeah,
like my mind. I wasn't seized with anxiety of like, oh shit, like my mom's gonna die. Like that hadn't fully appeared in my consciousness at that point. Whereas if it happened now, I would be having a lot more of a breakdown because I would actually have more of an understanding of what's going on.
Yeah. There's a guy in my circle. Yeah, his mother passed away actually from breast cancer last year, and he's around 15 now.
Oh, that's rough.
So not everyone is lucky. Damn. I mean,
yeah,
I with a passion.
Yeah, I actually know a guy who got home to his house from high school, and his dad was like on the floor, like his heart had stopped, and he tried to do CPR, but his dad died. Like, imagine being the person to walk in on your dad just being dead in the middle of the living room, no warning whatsoever.
Hell, that's what it is.
Yeah, can't even begin to imagine how awful that'd be.
Alright, let's move to a little less depressing personal matter and get back to the depressing state of the world.
Well, yes.
Black pills are getting too intimate.
from one sense of cancer to another.
Yes. So, why are guys not approaching women? Is it because if we approach you at work, you'll go to HR? If we approach you at the gym, you'll go to the manager? If we approach you in the shopping centre, that's not allowed either. Where the hell are we meant to approach them?
I think it's in the bush in their backyard. No, wait, no, that's not allowed either.
I'm gonna go with transgender bathroom.
Oh, the spoon. Oh my god.
You gotta do
Under the pretext of a bad wig and 5 o'clock shadow.
Oh god. No, you gotta do the Stan strategy and go outside a woman's window with a boombox playing Shh, a monkey!
Yeah, that sounds like an excellent way to get arrested.
Yeah.
What about you're a strange animal though? I hear that gets
Oh.
rocking.
If that gets a woman rocking, you know you found a good one. If she's like based and Crowder pilled, like
Perfect.
you know, you
Yes, Cap Stashus says, insert Gillette commercial here.
Oh no.
Hey,
Yes.
See, I'm a bad one. Like
hey.
I've done like I've been married for a fair few years now, so
oh, that girl looks
You
cute. I'm
must
gonna
feel
go
very
like
relieved, sir.
that girl
I am
looks
very
cute. I'm gonna go
relieved. I
talk
really
to
am.
her. Whoa, man, what are you doing? Don't approach that woman and ask her out. It's aggressive.
oh yeah, I can imagine that 1 second.
Jesus,
See, I don't know.
design
Like,
right.
I find it weird. Like, I find all the dating thing weird because after because I was married for 10 years, almost 10 years, and then I got divorced. Then I was single for a fair few years, and then got involved in the dating scene, and I just talked to women, and then
You
that was it.
misogynist.
Like, I also did online. I know. I did
Dare you.
online dating as well.
Oh.
And the thing which was interesting about that was because I was very upfront that I was not interested in one night stands, that I was interested in, I was looking for a partner for the long term. That weeded out so much crap just straight away because I wasn't interested in like forming superficial relationships with people.
yeah,
It's actually
exactly.
this. Oh shit.
It's a good
You
thing to have
spectrum.
standards.
Yes, that's what I was going to say. Standards.
Spanish. Well, it's in some areas I've been. It seems like actually there's a stigma towards the virtue of keeping it until marriage.
Mhm.
You are in some places you are actually looked down upon unless you're into one night stands and shit like that.
Yeah, I find that weird. Like, I sort of look at it and go, well, see, because I'm like in my 40s, so I go, well, I was a bit of a coomer when I was like, 17, 18, 19, sort of 20, sort of in that age. But other than that, that's, I went through my wild oats period, when I was a teenager, and back when I was, willing to take stupid risks, I guess you might say. But other than that, I've never really been interested in it. And even back then, I wasn't really interested in it. It was just hadn't developed my own personality to the point where I was able to go against the crowd.
I will say there is an elephant in the room that no one is addressing.
Yeah, the feminist.
Please address it, Spoon. Come on.
And that addressing is, if you're good looking, all of those methods of communication will actually work regardless.
Yes, you're correct. I
Rules
agree with
1
you,
and
Spoon.
2. Rules 1 and 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, there's a litany of things you must and must not do with a woman. Unless you're good looking, in which case, fuck it all out the window. And no one wants to say that, but that is the God's honest fucking truth. If a really good looking guy's gonna go up to a girl, he can get any fucking girl, no matter how much of an asshole he is. Well, within
That is
reason.
true. And the
But
second
maybe-
people on
well,
that
maybe
line are
that's-
those who have a lot of money.
Well, maybe that's another good way of weeding it out, right? Because I imagine some women have like standards, and so like if you're a good-looking guy and she's not just gonna sleep with you because of that, maybe there's something you could pursue a little more seriously there.
What, a woman with brains,
This is
maybe?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
Oh,
they're rare.
intelligence is very sexy. Intelligence is sexy. But yes, you are right, Spoon. I agree with you on that one, that intelligence is rare. But stupidity is also rare amongst women. You get women sit it. Yeah, because, well,
No, he is
Okay.
technically right. If you look at the IQ
Yes.
curves, men and women have the same average intelligence, but men deviate more from the average in either direction.
Yes, when you're measuring it as
Yeah.
basic intellect, but a lot of women
Yes,
go
I-
into
well, IQ is
acting
different to that.
women like
I
to
know-
act stupid.
yes.
That's
Yeah,
how
there's
I
a,
do
there's
acting.
a difference. It's the difference between intelligence and wisdom.
Yes. Yeah.
I know the traditional story is that women have an IQ slightly higher than men, but if the average IQ for men is 90 and the average IQ for women is 100 and mine is 125, they're still stupid compared to me.
Yes.
So there is
I've got
that.
no idea what my IQ is. for example, and I don't really care what my IQ is. I know what my wife's IQ is, and like she's got an IQ in the 130s. So,
which ironically makes you look good by comparison, because she chose you, so she at least has good decision making.
No, I just say that I've got a
nice way of
face.
complimenting yourself without actually saying it.
That and you have a voice to die for.
Oh, thank you very much, Trim.
Yeah, the voices do
not
help
as good as
crap load of
Spoons.
women.
No, Spoons is beautiful.
I actually prefer your voice to mine.
You sound like
Really?
a slightly older Spoon.
Yes.
You sound like a slightly older Spoon. That's it.
Yeah, he has a certain age to his voice that I will not get until I am 10 years older. And that is
So
just
you're
the
in
case.
your 30s.
Yeah,
oh
I'm
my
41.
god. I figured it out.
Yeah.
I figured
I'm
it out.
43.
Jessa is Spoon from the future. Or Spoon is a clone of Jessa, made 10 years after him.
That sounds lovely. But I do have to say that it is a bit creepy, but I do appreciate the timbre in your voice. You've got a really nice reading voice, I have to agree.
Ah, yes. Resonance. Good times.
Yes.
I also like the voice.
I got that from yes, the wizard voice. That's actually a friend of mine who came up with that. I don't know where. I think he got it from some other cartoon. And I will never ever do the imitation as well as he does. But whenever he did, kind of an almost like if Gandalf was a British aristocrat, that's kind of the theme he went for. So he sounds kind of like that, and then I kind of do an impression of his impression. But he says insane shit, like the only way to open the portal is through your ass. In that kind of voice, and it is hilariously funny. And God, I haven't seen him in fucking ages, actually. And now that I'm saying it out loud in my head, I can't stop giggling about it.
So you're trying to tell us that your wizard voice is an Inception voice?
Kind of, but I also suspect my own voice is that. Because I didn't sound like this growing up, because I grew up in Ireland, and I had a very thick Irish accent at one point. And I heard myself over recording, and I went, is that what I sound like? God, I don't want to sound like that. I sound like one of the plebs, so fuck that. Yeah. So I started watching a show, if you're English, you'll be familiar with it, QI.
Yes.
So it was quite interesting, and Stephen Fry was on it, and...
Yes.
Stephen Fry and, Phil Jupitus and Eddie Izzard and Bill Bailey and all these people. And I said, I like Stephen's bass resonance, but the accent is a bit posh. I kind of like a bit of Bill Bailey's, and then Eddie Izzard's mannerisms. And if you put them all in a blender, what will you end up with? Well, something like this, I imagine.
I think you're correct. Yeah, I can totally picture that progression into your voice. Very clearly.
Yes. And then because I always like the English accent, because I imagine my surname is Hayes, for heaven's sake, so there's freaking English blood in me somewhere. So I thought that if I can sort of just get those three and mix them together, would I have some sort of an accent that would show wisdom but not too much pretension? Because I feel if you have a deep, bassy, resonant voice and you do not flip out at shit when you have an argument, you can make people look like complete idiots even if you're speaking shite. Just by the fact that you're calm and sound as an authority figure.
Yeah, just don't you just gotta not adopt the particular kind of English accent that BBC presenter on the race on the university race thing had, where she's like, so did you find out about it from Twitter?
No,
2 days later.
I would rather sound like Jacob Rees-Mogg.
Saturday.
Oh no,
Mercy.
that's just an evidence of the lack of standards in the BBC, because the BBC used to have an accent that was the BBC accent. The English presenter accent, like they all sounded the same in a lot of ways. There was variations, but you didn't have those voices. Like everyone who used to be on the BBC was understandable, and that was part of what the accent was designed around for the BBC, because the BBC used to be broadcast across the entire Commonwealth. So every member of the Commonwealth needed to be able to understand what was being broadcast by the BBC. And so they had an accent that was nice and clear.
It was to show you that this is who still owned you.
Well, that too.
Well, there was actually
Saying
a point where Sargon had to make his speech like deliberately less posh. Like I noticed this in videos of his way back in the day, where when he would say issue, he would say issue, and I noticed that and it kind of bothered me a little. And then at one point in a later video or live stream or something, he was like, "I've realized I've been saying issue instead of issue. I have to stop doing that because it makes me sound like a posh London twat." And then he stopped doing that.
Well, it was his own fault because he was sounding like a posh London twat back in the day.
Yeah, he did.
You know,
Have any of you
considered
seen his
Sargon quite
video
posh,
building
to
a
be honest.
sling?
He's never sounded posh to me, but he used to have a London twang.
I think the poshest person that I heard speak to him was probably Kraut.
Yes.
Kraut had a very, very posh accent, even when he was drunk. Even when he was drunk and he came onto the 2016 election stream, he just came and just said, "I'm sorry, I'm very drunk." And even that just sounds really uppity.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I've noticed about hearing my voice on recording. I don't hate my voice when I hear it on recording, but I do hear it and kind of think, why do I sound a little drunk even though I haven't had anything to drink?
It's still in your
I
system,
don't
bro.
hear that with you.
Yeah.
You've got you've got a very mild American accent, as far as I'm concerned. Like
It's not as thick as you'd think a Texan would be.
Yeah, you've got a really understandable accent, whereas a lot of Americans, I don't know, like the Wisconsin accent and stuff like that, like they're just strange.
Or if you ever go into Louisiana, the Cajun dialect.
Yeah, well, I've been to New Orleans, but that was a long time ago now. So
Yeah, I have some family in New Orleans.
So, I hope you enjoyed this segment from the Sultans of Shadilay podcast.
If you like this segment, please click like, comment, and subscribe. Also, check out the full podcast in the description below.